This is PulverSIZE. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do for Pulverize this season, and instead of doing what everyone else is doing and trying to go for the highest pit pushing build possible, I instead wanted to focus on the quality of life around Pulverize so that people that enjoy Pulverize can use it in all content without feeling like they're slower than if they were to use something like Ravens or another build. So with that in mind, I increased the size of our Pulverize, upped our movement speed to max, and gave us the ability to yank enemies in from anywhere on the screen, or off the screen for that matter. So this build is fantastic for all Torment 4 content, and it can even clear above Pit 100, but if you're specifically looking for pit pushing on Pulverize, leave me a comment and let me know, and I can do another video for that. Now I'm going to break down the build for you, but first, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/screamhard. Now let me show you what I got. So first off, this build is really simple. This is a 1-button build, although technically 2 because we're going to use our ultimate, but once we're in our ultimate, all we're doing is spamming our Pulverize. And as you can see, we have a giant Pulverize. And it only takes a few short clicks to get the entire room covered in Pulverize. We're also automatically activating our Bulwark, as well as our Petrify, which is going to yank in enemies because of Erida's Inexorable Will. So as you can see, our runes, as we attack, are causing the Petrify to build up, and the Earthen Bulwark to build up. So if we just spam down, you'll see that it happens pretty often. That means a couple of things. One, we're getting a huge defensive layer from Earthen Bulwark, and you can see that it's a huge barrier. But on top of it being a big barrier, it's also giving us a shapeshift because it takes us into human form whenever we use the barrier. And that's going to be activating our seasonal power Wild Transformations, which means we're also going to pull enemies in with our Cyclone Armor when that happens. So we're pulling enemies in with the Petrify that's being triggered and with the Bulwark that's being triggered, which means there's basically never a time that enemies are not getting yanked into you. Now you might notice that I have a couple of mythics on my build. I actually intended this as a no mythic setup, but I didn't have an Insatiable Fury because I'd been trashing mine. And my Rotting Lightbringer doesn't have GA on resource cost reduction, so I used Ring of Starlit Skies just to give me a little bit more of that. But there's multiple ways to manage your spirit, and if you really wanted to, you could even run the Mjolnir and Cataclysm combo instead of Grizzly Rage, and that gives you guaranteed spirit for the people who really don't want to have to deal with spirit at all. But it's pretty easy to solve, so I wouldn't stress it. So with Rotting Lightbringer, which plays into Pulverize, this is making our attacks do poison stuff, but the main thing it's actually doing is after you have these puddles down, every hit inside that puddle is a guaranteed overpower. That means we're able to build around overpower with 100% reliability, which we normally can't do on Druid. With that in mind, for our Chaos perks, we're doing Brawn over Brains, which is giving us 125% overpower damage, which is amazing. And this is also giving us a ton of HP, so you can see that we have thousands. And you can actually get way more HP. You could go 100k HP if you wanted to in this build. We've got Purge the Infected, which is giving us our guaranteed critical strikes. And this is what is causing us to lose so much of our spirit. So if you do have spirit issues, you can take this off, but you're going to lose that guaranteed crit. So I don't recommend it, but this is a solution if you want to remove it in order to save your spirit. We're running Overabundance, which is a 300% damage multiplier just by gaining resources. And we already covered the Wild Transformations. For our items, we're using Fists of Fate. This one's really nice because it has a high lucky hit chance that you can get on it. As you can see with a GA and a triple masterwork, it's 140%, so a massive amount. And that's nice because we're using this Ahu rune, and that's triggering our Yom. Yom is the one that triggers the Petrify and causes the ultimate to pull enemies in. So this is a lucky hit chance against non-healthy enemies. So we trigger it pretty often, especially because of the Fist of Fate. Fist of Fate also has a nice damage multiplier, so it's a good all-around item, even if you don't have a high lucky hit chance. Keep in mind that Chaos Armor can be swapped around between any of your different slots of gear. However, I highly recommend that you stick with the helmet and the pants. One of the things I'm doing in this variation of the build is taking out a little bit of damage, so about maybe 60% or 70% of damage, in order to put boots in. And the reason for this is to get that one extra size temper and also get the extra movement speed. So we're able to stay maxed on movement speed and hit an even bigger area. I even tested adding an additional size temper, but I'm going to show you. So you can see this area is quite big. Now if we put this on and we do another one, you can barely tell the difference between the two. Basically, as you add additional size tempers, you'll notice it less and less. Because I even tried adding 2 more, and I couldn't even tell the difference. So I think the sweet spot is having 3 of them, and getting the extra movement speed on the boots. But like I said, you lose some damage, so that's a sacrifice we're making. For the chest piece, I'm recommending either Shroud of False Death, or you can run Insatiable Fury. But you also have an option for Banished Lord's Talisman, which is also really good. I think damage-wise, Banished Lords might come out on top, but Shroud is also extremely good. For the gloves, we're running the Rampaging Werebeast aspect, and don't forget you can get ranks to Pulverize on your gloves. On the pants, I'm running Rotting Lightbringer, but again, you can swap this around with the helmet or the chest piece. And then for the boots, we're running Ursine Horror, and this one's a requirement in order to make our Pulverize into an Earth skill. On our weapon, we're running the Rabid Bear aspect, and this is just a big multiplier, but it's also making our damage into poison, which is handy because we get an extra passive, and it also synergizes with our Rotting Lightbringer. For my amulet, I'm running Shockwave, although my recommended setup is to run Retaliation here, and then instead of the Ring of Starless Skies, you can run the Shockwave there. And then for my ring, I'm running Erida's Inexorable Will. This one's mostly being used to pull enemies in with the ultimate, but it does do damage, and you'll oftentimes kill most enemies in Torment 4 just from the damage from this, especially if you have a good passive and high willpower. And as the name of the build goes, make sure you're getting a good size temper on your gloves, your boots, and your amulet. And on all three of these, you want a triple masterwork. Although if you're wanting more damage, you can go for no masterworking in your amulet, and then triple in your boots and your gloves, because that's going to be much less damage loss than triple masterworking into your amulet. Because remember, like I said, adding an additional size temper adds less and less over time. For the gems, we're doing Sapphire in the armor. And on the accessories, you just want to make sure that you get enough skulls or diamonds in order to get all of your resists or armor capped out. You can see when we use our ultimate, we're getting more armor, and we actually only need about 750 in order to cap, because Brawn over Brains lowers our cap. And we're also looking to get our resists to green. Obviously my armor is a bit lower here, but that's because I haven't popped my consumables, which I usually go with Elixir of Advantage, Blessed Guide, Redamine Buzz, and Soothing Spices. But you can also go with Elixir of Fortitude if you want more HP. And then just make sure we're good on our runes. We're going with Igni Q, and this is what's triggering the Bulwark. And then, like I said before, Ahu Yam. For the Spirit boons, we're going with Gift of the Stag just to make sure we keep our spirit up. Although if you feel comfortable on your spirit, you can change over to Wariness for some extra damage reduction. I'm going with Swooping Attacks as well as Avian Wrath. But as usual in my builds, you can swap Swooping Attacks over to Iron Feather if you want better survivability. We're using Energize to make sure we keep up our spirit, and this is also helping us trigger the Overabundance. And then we're using Masochistic, which is just really good for sustain. And if you have a good Fist of Fate, this is going to be triggering constantly. In the skill tree, we're running 2 points in any basic skill, although I do Claw just because it synergizes the best with Shapeshifting to get our bonuses up quickly. But we get that automatically from Bulwark, so it doesn't actually matter. We're maxing out the Pulverize, and I'm doing Primal Pulverize for the consistent damage reduction. But you can go Raging Pulverize, which is a every 10 seconds you get 5 seconds of 20% more damage. So that one's pretty good, but not 100% uptime. We're maxing out Wild Impulses for damage, as well as Backlash, Nature's Reach, Feral Aptitude, Stone Guard, Crushing Earth, Envenom, Toxic Claws, and Quick Shift for more damage. We're getting more survivability from our Iron Fur, Vigilance, Ancestral Fortitude, our Bulwark obviously, Mending, and then we do get some survivability from Ursine Strength as well. But this is mostly here for some big damage. So we get 100% more overpower damage and 20% more damage on top of that. And it's 2 separate multipliers, so even better. We've got our ult maxed out so we can get that extra armor and both additional points. For damage, I forgot to mention Defiance and Natural Disaster. I set this up with the non-Shroud version in mind. So I went ahead and did the 2 points here, just 1 point into Provocation, and also 1 point to Safeguard just to get those bonuses. But if you have Shroud on, you don't actually need points there for those. And then our Debilitating Roar is going to be triggering automatically when we come back from human form, whenever the Bulwark's triggered. And so you want to just have enough points here to make sure you get that 25% extra damage. And this is going to be reducing enemies' damage by default. We're also getting the 3 points in Cyclone Armor, and that's going to pull enemies in and reduce their damage. This also has a passive damage reduction element for non-physical damage, which is also nice. For the Paragon boards, we're starting with the Headhunter Glyph, and for this one you basically just want to max out your bonus, and then you can move on from here. Then we're attaching the Heightened Malice board, and here we're doing the Spirit Glyph. Then to the left, we're putting on our Survival Instincts board, and here we're going with the Keeper Glyph. Moving down from there, we're going to be putting on our Ancestral Guidance board, and here we're running the Dominate Glyph. And then finally, to the left from there, we're running our Earth and Devastation board, and here we're doing Earth and Sky. Keep in mind that you can easily hit your bonus for Earth and Devastation just from the Earth and Sky and these little nodes here. And there's also more here that you can get in order to hit that bonus. This is obviously an incomplete board because I'm not max Paragon level. So if you check the written guide under the video, you can find the complete board. And if you go to the mid-game tab, you can find a reduced board in case your Paragon levels are like maybe 200 or so. Now just one quick mention, if you're feeling good on AoE, you could actually take out your Petrify, and I would swap this out probably for a Teleport. That way you can teleport on your Evade, and that would give you more mobility and make it to where you don't need Eridas. Then once you don't need Eridas, you can add in your Retaliation, so you'd be getting more damage and you'd be getting more mobility, but at the cost of not pulling enemies in from so far away. So it's a trade-off, but that is a pretty good option to keep up the same type of quality of life theme. Mercenaries don't really matter, but if you're farming, you can go with Subo. If you need the resists or armor, you can go with Rahir. You can go with Varyana for some attack speed with Bloodthirst, or Aldkin for some damage reduction with Field of Languish. And that should be about everything for this build. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them below. Make sure you let me know if there's any other builds that I haven't hit this season that you're looking forward to. And consider coming by our Discord community at discord.gg/screamhard. It's a great place to ask me questions, talk to other people, post your own stuff, whatever you want to do. But if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Daddy Druid out. Oh, and one more thing. I made myself public to use on Sora, so if you want to make weird AI about Diablo 4 with me, feel free. I'd love to see what you guys have, and post it in the Discord.
Subscribe to Scream Hard. He's more than an old fart. He makes lots of fun builds. I promise his streams chill. He should probably be faster. Come watch this disaster.